All right, it is time to review the CMLL Anniversary show, which took place on September 19, 2025. Of course, over in Mexico City and Arena, Mexico. Where else would it be? Another packed house, packed to the gills. Just hanging from the rafters, as we like to say. In a great atmosphere, great ambiance. People were ready for the show. And it's a show overall that I enjoyed. I thought was pretty good. It ran the gamut, didn't it? It ran from, it ran the gamut from top to bottom, just from not great matches to an absolute match of the year candidate, if not the best match of the year. I don't know. I'm just throwing out there. You've got a complete spectrum here, but it's a show overall that I enjoyed. When I think back on it, getting my thoughts together for this review, I'm like, you know what? I like this show. I liked it a lot. Was it great? No, I've seen CMLL anniversary shows that were much better than this. But in the short time that I've been watching and going back and delving into the older stuff, but this was good. This was good, and it is absolutely compounded by one particular match. Which, look, it's the lead. There's no use in burying it. We're going to start by talking about it, which is Místico defeating MJF to win the World Light Heavyweight Championship. And it was a title versus mask match. So of course, Max's title was on the line against Místico's mask, and this was one of those that, in the lead up to this show, there was no question in anyone's mind, nor myself. There was no question that Místico was winning. There was no way MJF, as we were thinking about it and talking about it and exchanging ideas and whatnot, we were all thinking the same thing. There's no way Max is going to win and remove Místico, the hero, the icon of CMLL, Lucha Libre, in modern day. No way he's taking that mask away. But I'll be goddamned if he didn't make me believe in this match that he just might go ahead and do it. And I'll be damned if he hadn't had 16,000 people in Arena, Mexico believing that Místico was in fucking trouble. This match, and I know sometimes I like to be hyperbolic, right? As any good wrestling, commentator, analyst, pundit should, quite frankly. I know I like to be very grandiose sometimes, but I want you to listen to how serious my tone is as he starts giggling like a schoolgirl, right? But okay, I'm being super serious right now. This is one, excuse me. It's like I'm laughing now because this setup is so ridiculous, and I do want to say something very sincere, and there's no bit behind it. Look, this is one of the best wrestling matches I have ever seen. Point blank, finished. Let's move on. Next match. Let's go to the Las Chicas Indonables. No, we're not doing it. But I legitimately mean this. There hasn't been, this is in a handful of matches that I will always remember, and that I will 100% revisit on occasion, where I'm like, you know what? I feel like pulling this classic up. God damn, this was great. And from the get-go, Max goes right after Místico. We don't even finish introductions. There's a lot of ceremony when it comes, especially in Anniversary. In the Anniversary environment, there's a lot of ceremony, and you want things to be able to to breathe, but Max was having none of this. And the reason why this match worked so well is because there was one emotion carrying it all: hatred. It's just as simple as that. There wasn't anything nuanced. There wasn't respect. It wasn't, Mystico doing this because, he wanted to test himself. No, he hates MJF and MJF hated him back. And all of the absolute disgust and anger that they felt for each other poured into this match. And Max wasted no time into making this anger become real by tearing at Mystico's mask and then throwing him against the barricade and then against the post to have him bleed. And the brilliant thing here, this is the brilliant thing. I feel I need to point this out, and I'm going to give credit to Max. I don't know if this is something that he realized on the spot, but I'm going to give credit that he did, because it is so brilliant, right? He grabs Mystico, he's torn at the mask, and he grabs Mystico and he throws him into the barricades, right? And they're just they're standard, contemporary wrestling barricades, right? There's nothing special about them. It's just, and he throws him into it, and then you can see Mystico, he's sort of reaching for his gig, and he's gonna puncture himself. And I'm seeing this, and I'm like, oh wait, he's gonna blade on that? And I'm like, that's kind of lame. Quite frankly, how many guys get thrown into barricades and they don't instantly juice, right? So I don't know if Max saw that what Mystico was doing and was like, look, we gotta pull this up. And then he grabs him and he throws him into the steel post. Okay. And when he's throwing him into the steel post, then, Mystico bounces back, and with the camera angle, as he's turning around, the blood is starting to pour because Max got him immediately after he bladed, tossed him into the post. So Mystico, while he was on the ground gigging, he hadn't started to bleed. There wasn't any pooling or anything. I thought that was brilliant. It was a brilliant move because now it looked like the post absolutely 100% opened him up hard way, which it didn't. But like I said, I don't know if this is just Max thinking on his feet, if it's cat-like reflexes, or if it's just happy coincidence. I'm ready to give credit to Max on that one. That was such a fantastic visual. And then for the entirety of the match, Mystico is covered in his own blood. I did not realize how good of a bleeder Mystico was. It was phenomenal. It was legitimately one part scary, one part disgusting. And Max is painted in his blood, not because he's doing, a heel thing where he's grabbing the blood and painting it all over his chest or whatever the fuck. No, he's just by performing moves, by putting into, a headlock or, tossing him around, he's getting blood all over him just by being there. just by standing around doing shit to Mystico. And you will be hard pressed to find visuals as compelling and as memorable as Mystico with his mask half off. It's just torn down. You see part of his face, obscured by the blood that's just pouring down his face. His white mask, he's all in white. He wrestles usually in white, so it wasn't necessarily a clue. His mask is just soaked. It's just soaked with the blood, and there's so much blood that it's shiny in the lights. Do you understand how much this man bled? And he bled throughout the entire match. It didn't close up at some point. How it happens sometimes, where you're going to get a good in, a good first gusher, but then your body's gonna get to work and it's gonna plug that shit up. I don't know if it's Mystico who just worked at it to keep it open or whatever the fuck, but even at the end, he's on all fours after the match and you can still see the drips of blood, falling from his head and staining the mat. It's just phenomenal stuff. It was just absolutely phenomenal stuff. And the crowd, absolutely rabid for this. This absolutely out of control. You could not have had your favorite superhero, which is essentially what Mystico is, right? The king of Mexico City. You could not have had a better setup than this guy who got mugged on his way to wrestle his match, got brutalized violently, his life essence is pouring out, while this motherfucker, this other asshole from the United States, right? Because dare I forget that MJF, when he came out, right? John Cruz was there dressed as fucking Abraham Lincoln with the stovepipe hat, and MJF comes out literally dressed like Homelander from The Boys, and we used to make so much fun of Cody Rhodes coming out with his gear and going, Cody, that you're Homelander right now, right? Where it kind of looked like it, but it wasn't exactly that either. And then couple that with the blonde hair and everyone's like, oh, come on, what the fuck, But here, MJF, there, like that, it was a costume. He was literally Homelander. So, I don't know if the reference was lost on whether the reference was lost on those present or not, but nonetheless, he's still coming out, as a superhero with stars and stripes and all this bullshit, right? He still looks like an American superhero. So anyway, Mystico, at a complete disadvantage, being brutalized by this American asshole who's been popping on this show, disrespecting us, coming into our sanctuary, right? Arena Mexico, belittling us, belittling our wrestlers, lucha libre. He just happens to be light heavyweight champion, right? There's no way Max is a light heavyweight between you and I. And it's like, well, fuck you. Everything just came together so good, and Max was so honed in on this. Like, as much as his last two showings in Arena Mexico, he was playing like that classic Rudo, right? Where he comes in and he's just being a dick. He does a move and he's like, and then he starts flipping people off and he's taunting the crowd. Here he was so 100% focused, laser focused on wanting to leave the arena with Mystico's mask. Like, that was his primary motivation, his first mission. And that's why he continued doing what he was doing throughout the entire match. So Mystico, for the longest part in this match, he's trying to string some offense together. He's having his babyface comebacks, and Max always has an answer for them. He has the old eye poke, that's always at the ready. Mystico does his stuff, the tornillo and flying crossbody. But in the meantime, as we continue, like, he's losing blood, and Mystico is pawing at his mask. He's going like this. He's trying to get the blood out of his face, out of his nose. He's trying to. Like, the blood is not just, think about it with a mask. It stays there. It's got nowhere to go. It's being soaked into the material. So he's like having trouble breathing. He's having trouble seeing. So he's spent trying to do moves, but nonetheless, he pulls off, a springboard destroyer, right, on MJF. MJF does an awesome package pile driver right on the apron, which drove the crowd bananas, to the point where Mystico is trying to get back into the ring, and he just beats the count, and he goes for the La Mística, but Max blocks it and reverses it into a tombstone piledriver. People are going nuts here. Audience is completely out of control. You have John Cruz giving Max the dynamite diamond ring, but Místico kicks him in the balls while the referee is distracted because of John Cruz. Because even Místico's like, no, fuck this shit. I gotta play dirty here. Referee turns around, he covers him. Max kicks out. The crowd is absolutely ballistic. The progress of this crowd, the crowd added so much to this match because they were into the stakes. They were believing that their hero could lose his mask. And it was huge. And finally, Místico locks in La Mística, and Max is struggling. Like he's crawling to the ropes like as quickly as he can, because in CMLL, as opposed to in American wrestling, submissions, you don't stay in submissions for like 60 seconds, 90 seconds trying to get out or power out or whatever. Usually submissions are a sign that you're about done, and especially La Mística, which is like one of the most protected moves, in pro wrestling essentially. So Max is trying to get to the ropes as quickly as he can, and Místico just rolls him around, and Max taps clean, and the match ends, and the crowd erupts. And Me Muero plays. The Místico came out to the song as for his entrance, so it's playing at the end, and he struggles to get up. He stumbles, like he tries to do the pose on the corner turnbuckle, and he flounders. He can't make it up. And Templario, who had been cornering him, Templario sort of, it's okay. And eventually he does get up on the corner and he poses with the belt. In the meantime, while the hero is standing tall, you've got MJF who's crawling away up the ramp on his hands and knees to the top of the ramp, where he lays back in the steps, and he's like, head in his hands, and he can't believe that he lost. It's an incredible piece of business. Just an incredible piece of business. One that just it brings you back to really the essence of what pro wrestling is. It's just heroes and villains, good guys and bad guys. There weren't like shades of gray and cool heels and on top of that, just like straight, clear action. Not like, fucking wives interfering, or the Avengers assembling, or lights going out and then popping back up, and then the Undertaker's in the back. Like, none of that fucking shit. Just the purest example of what pro wrestling can be and should be, where it's two guys who have made us believe that they legitimately hate each other with all their might, to the point that they are beating the absolute piss out of each other. No one wants to give the other guy an inch. And then you have the villain and the hero who's being as valiant as he can to try and mount a comeback, and he does. And it's such a simple structure. But it was delivered. The storytelling in the match was pristine. Like, these guys understood everything they needed to do. Their chemistry was off the charts. It was just so natural for both of these guys to fill these roles. And I mean, like, both of them play it's natural for both of them. Místico is a born babyface, like hero of the people type of thing, like the most classic El Santo shit you could have. And MJF, on the other hand, is your penultimate heel. That's what he was born to be. Like, he's fucking, he's Roddy Piper, but meaner, nastier, worse, kind of thing. This is why, look, this is the type of match that when we get into American wrestling, and the matches, particularly the main events for world titles, have all these things happening where there's a ref bump, and then there's like a cavalcade of interference happening, and then everything goes off the rails. This, like, it's because of matches like this that I can't stand the other stuff, because everyone should be able to do these types of things. And you're going to say, but Warren, like it's such an old way of doing wrestling. Wrestling is so different now. You have to have different layers of stories and whatnot. But I'm going to counter this by telling you that watching that match felt so fresh and different that if a promotion decided to go down that kind of path and build to where we understand the hatred between two people, and they can have a straight, no frills, ungimmicked, big time match and sell it to us as such and be compelling at the same time, that to me would be fresh. Because doing the other stuff is getting old. It's been old for a while. But what Max and Mystico did it's so basic that it feels innovative, if that makes sense. It's so simple, it feels new, it feels fresh. It feels like we're trying out something that's never been done before. I'm not saying this never happens in North American wrestling, in American wrestling, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't happen enough. We always have to tweak something, we always have to make it more complicated than what it could be. And the thing is that, let's say we take the example of AEW, particularly because I don't watch WWE these days, so I don't know what's going on specifically, right? But in regards to AEW, you can't make me think that there aren't people on that roster who can't pull this off. In fact, AEW has a roster filled with so much great talent, so many people who could pull that kind of shit off. Simply. But you just have to give it a shot once in a while. Instead of trying to trick out your main events, you could do this. And at the same time, I'm saying like I'm talking like AEW's never done this, but they have. They have done this in the past. Why don't we see that more often? Look, we saw it with we saw it at All Out. I'm recording this obviously after I watched All Out. But we saw this at All Out with Paige and Fletcher, who had a straight up wrestling match, and it was terrific. Now, continue to build at that, crank up the emotion, crank up the hatred, push it up another notch. And it's not as if these companies aren't capable of doing it. And it's not as if the wrestlers are unable to do it. Somehow we're afraid to do it because this is not what wrestling is anymore. Wrestling in 2025 is something else. It's got to be a bloodline, right? That was the thing. When the bloodline was hot, we knew it would trickle down into every other aspect of pro wrestling. But that's the thing. It's like, oh, now you have to have these long epic stories, and no, you don't. No, you don't. You really don't. You just need talented people who know exactly what the fuck they're doing. Mystico knows exactly what he's doing. MJF knows exactly what they're doing. Two students of the game. Two people have been around long enough to understand how to make things work. But at least, I say long enough. Max is still very young, but like he's brilliant at this. Yeah, he's brilliant at wrestling. So, of course, he's going to pick up on all the things. He's a student of the game. You don't think he's watched how to be a Rudo in CMLL? You don't think he's watched tape and understood it? No, of course he has. He had the proof in the pudding over everything that he's done over the summer doing shit with CMLL. Mystico was born in it. Well, I mean, you know what I mean. Like, he wasn't born in it, but he's the standard bearer. He, of course, will understand how it works. And he's a top guy and he wrestles like a top guy. Jesus Christ. Is there a better case for the Flair Thez award for the Observer Awards this year or next year, 2020? Well, you know what I mean. Like this year. I'm not talking about the Hall of Fame. I'm talking about the Observer Awards. Is there a better candidate than Mystico this year? Like, I'm legitimately drawing, I don't know, maybe Saya Kamatani, maybe. I'd love to hear arguments on the side of both, but goddamn, I mean, Mystico is he's in a class by himself right now. I don't think anyone else comes close. No one comes close, except maybe Saya Kamatani. I don't know. I might have to put some thought into that, because they're both terrific wrestlers. They're both they both have great crowd connection. People love them for different reasons or hate them in the case of Saya, right? Their draws. I guess it's going to boil down to numbers. Because look, I think Saya overall is a better worker than Mystico. I think she's a better overall worker. But Mystico, the way he works is so good and sound and solid and connects with the audience. And plus he draws 12 to 16,000 people every fucking Friday night. And then when he goes to, fucking Arena Pueblo or, Arena Coliseo, he's packing the house up every time he goes anywhere. Saya's at the top. Saya's at the top of Stardom, while Stardom is on the best financial run of the entirety of the existence of the promotion, and she's champion right now. So maybe she's not drawing 16,000 people a night, but she's packing the houses. I don't know. Okay, so we went off on a sidebar here. We went off on a little sidebar here, but I'll think about it some more. And we really, really have to stop pretending, because it's pretending at this point, that Maxwell Jacob Friedman is bad. I was listening to Joe Lanza on some audio that he did, and he said something that struck with me, where it's like, look, I've been talking quite a bit about how I feel that the discourse regarding MJF is completely unfair. People have decided that he's bad, so whatever he does, when he does good things, we sort of shove it aside and say, oh, well, Max had a good match, yay, kind of thing. But then, let's say he has a 10-minute promo on Dynamite this week, then, we're going to start throwing tomatoes at him and say he's horrible, he's shit, and that'll be the discourse for the next week, and how bad, it's going to be the Brandy promo every week when it comes to MJF, instead of focusing on his noticeable and very impressive positives. And Joe Lanza, to circle back to that, said sometimes he fears that the conversation has swung way too far in that regard, in regards to MJF being bad. He feels like with fans, it's just swung all the way too far, and it will take a Herculean effort to have that swing back. And that's a shame. And that's just people that are stuck on their own hangups and can't realize just how much of a special talent he is, just because he cuts a little too much promo time, he has a little too much mic time, and they are under the impression that he is in control of all his creative, and that there's no one, that there's, he goes unfiltered on TV and no one ever tells him no. That's the narrative that goes around, because it suits the people who don't like MJF, because, he does an edgy joke now and then, or because his promos are a little long. Look, I got over the Brochacho stuff. I got over it. And I think there's a lot of people who are still living with PTSD from that era. Come on, it's time to wake up. The war is over. Get out of the weeds, okay? Step away, get out of the reeds, get out of the marshes. The war is over. And then he goes and does his match with Mark Briscoe the next day. Come on now. Anyway, I don't want to turn this again into a pro MJF rah-rah scenario, because I've done it already. I feel like I've done it 4 times this week on 3 different bits of audio. So yeah, so it's like it's fine. That's the long and short of it. We'll get to the rest of the match. We've been talking exclusively about this first match, but I mean, that's the one. Like, look, as far as a recommendation goes, like, this is the one where you drop everything and you find this match. You just go ahead. Like, it is, I think you can still purchase it on Triller, right, for $20. Go ahead and do that. Purchase it for $35 on the Legends tier for over on the CMLL YouTube, and then you'll have access to everything for a month, which is a really good deal. Just find it. Get your hands on it. Watch it. Enjoy it. Turn all of your fucking devices off. I don't want you live tweeting this. Absorb it. It's legitimately one of the best wrestling matches I have. It's right on top, right in there. It's one of the best wrestling matches I have ever seen. Ever seen. But Mystico is champion again. And it was absolutely phenomenal. So so we really had to start with that, because the rest we can sort of go through and sort of break down the rest of the happenings of the show. One of the things that I did notice too about this show, which is not necessarily specifically wrestling related, is that the CMLL seems to be embracing the made in Mexico mantle a lot more. It seems to be like there was 2 things that I noticed were different from the presentation. There was this one logo that read Hecho en Mexico, right? There you go. Gringo Warren here talking. That logo appeared a few times on screen, and they also had another tagline. Their usual tagline is the best lucha libre in the world, but they added an extra little tagline. There's like a secondary one, which basically translates to proudly Mexican. I'm like, isn't this interesting? And then during the show, there's a lot of ceremony during the anniversary. They truly do celebrate the history, take the time to celebrate the history of CMLL, and they invite dignitaries from the company to take part and celebrate the history of the Luthero family, and then also show the upcoming generations, right? You got even out of the little kids. I don't know who they are. I don't remember off the top of my head, and my Lutheroth lore is not quite as profound as many other CMLL watchers. But there was the whole family there, all the way down to the newest kid, who might, like, in, I don't know, 30 years, 40 years, be at the helm of all of this, if you want, I guess. I don't know how their succession works. So, and it might be really complicated because I watched a TV show about successions. Anywho, so during this bit here, Mystico was there with a few other wrestlers, and they give the microphone to Mystico after all of the ceremony, the protocol, I guess. And Mystico gets into his rah-rah speech mode where, he pumps up the crowd. And look, I don't speak Spanish, but, I do speak French. French and Spanish both have Latin roots. So I can make out some things that are being said, even though it's not perfect. But he essentially was saying that Lucha Libre, CMLL is essentially a company made in Mexico, and CMLL's Lucha Libre is made by Mexicans for Mexicans, essentially. I'm sure there's more nuance to it, but I was able to pick that up, and I thought that was very interesting. I think it's very interesting because clearly what they're doing here is establishing a line here, and they're addressing the WWE takeover of AAA without, or TKO takeover of AAA, the WWEization of AAA, but without naming any companies by name. If you follow pro wrestling, you know exactly what Mystico was talking about. So all of this sort of ties into a new vibe that they're in a new campaign. Actually, it seems it looks like a PR campaign to ignite the fan base, right? To ignite the fan base, get them excited, and to just drop a hint and say, look. Essentially, what they're saying is this: whatever the other guys are doing, it's not for us anymore, and it's not made by us. The gringos came in and took over. So whatever you're going to get there, it's not by Mexicans for Mexicans anymore. It's WWE with another name. That's not what he said, but that's essentially what he means. And if you want the real, authentic experience, you want to be connected to the tradition of lucha libre as it's meant to be, like for us, by us, for us. That would be CMLL. That's us, baby. That's kind of what he was saying. Of course, I embellished it a little bit, quite a bit, but that's essentially what it is. And you could tell it was rousing the crowd. Summoning the nationalist fervor, the patriotism, whatever you want to call it. And it's like, yeah, fuck yeah. And good for them. Good for them. They should be doing this. They should be taking like these nice little shots across the bow here and focus on their natural competitive strengths, and one of them being, homemade. Look, it happens all the time in America when something is made in USA. It's plastered everywhere. It's the same thing in Canada as well, especially these days. There's a lot of pride that goes into something made in your country. You understand like what all of that entails. Why not do that? Why not do that? And CMLL has never hid its patriotic side as well. During this it's patriotic / nationalistic, cultural side. I don't know exactly. I think I'm tripping over words here. It's maybe not exactly what I'm trying to convey, but they occasionally, like for big events, like at the Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago, they bring out the military fanfare. They bring out the Mexican military come out, and they play some music. They play the national anthem. Everyone's standing up, doing the pose, and singing along to the anthem. At the anniversary show, they had some traditional dancers who were there in the middle of the ring, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, this kind of rocks. This is fine. This is actually kind of cool. I'm the outsider looking in. I'm like, that's neat. And it continues to show that CMLL is not afraid. Has always kept that. Has always had that aspect of their product very much alive. This pride in Mexico type of thing, maybe and it can express itself in multiple ways. And so I can't say that I'm surprised they're going down this route, but they're being vociferous about it. They're being loud about it. They're clearly going to have a little campaign around it, and you can't blame them. And I think it's good. Like, they're not going to be able to beat them on any financial level, they being TKO, right? They're not going to be able to defeat them on any financial level. The best they can do is just like make sure that everyone understands that culturally speaking, the other guys are the phonies. They're owned by international interests, kind of thing. All right, let's go to the top of the card, to the bottom of the card and work our way up. First show on the match was the CMLL World Women's Tag Team match, where La Jarochita and Lluvia defeated Persephone and Reina Isis. What are my notes? I don't think I have much to say here. The Technicos tried hard. Yes, the Technicos did try hard. I thought Persephone and Reina Isis worked as hard as they could. I think Lluvia stinks. I don't think she's very good. And La Jarochita is, well, you know, she tries her best. I think there was some cool stuff at the back third of the match, but nothing special. And a bullshit result. Like, I was like, just, you know, tag up Persephone and Reina Isis. I understand that this was just like the second defense of the titles for Lluvia and La Jarochita, but who cares? Like, Persephone and Reina Isis are, you know, much more compelling tag team anyway. 2 3/4 stars for me. That's pretty much it. The Chavez brothers, Angel de Oro and Niebla Roja, defeated the Villano kids, the Villano 3 kids, El Hijo del Villano 3 and Villano 3 Jr., to retain the CMLL World Tag Team titles. I believe this is their 24th successful defense. So these guys are on a roll. And I was really excited for this match, and it delivered. I thought it was great. I think Villano 3 Jr. is terrific. I love the Chavez brothers. And, you know, El Hijo de Villano 3 is, he's not bad. He's good. Like, don't get me wrong, he's good. But Villano 3 Jr. is really the breakout between the two. And I kind of feel like he connects better with the Chavez brothers. Whereas El Hijo, he's I don't know, he's not as crisp, he's not as tight. There was a bit of a rough start here going off but they pick things up really quickly. There's this great spot where Niebla Roja has one of the Villano kids on his back, and then he does the pendulum swing with the other one. He has him on his back in a gory special, is what I should say. And then he picks up the other one and does the pendulum thing at the same time. Like, that's a strong lad there. That's pretty cool. The Villanos are doing all sorts of dual offense, dual moonsaults and stuff like that. Crowd is hot for this. Very pro Villanos. They like the Villanos. I think they're kind of like, you know, in CMLL, you'll often see like, you know, wrestlers, when they start getting too successful, the audience will turn on them sometimes. And I think we're kind of getting at that point with the Chavez brothers, where it's like, you know, like I said, 24 successful defenses of the titles, and the audience is kind of going, yeah, you know, maybe it's time to move along here. So we get the Chavez brothers in dual submissions by the Chavezes, los hermanos Chavez, not Chavez, Chavez, los hermanos Chavez. The Villanos are able to break free. So then what the Chavez brothers do is that they set him up on the turnbuckle. Well, one guy's flat on his back. I think it's El Hijo who's on his back, and then they lift off of the second turnbuckle. They lift Villano 3 Jr. and they slam him onto his brother on the mat, and then they go back to the submissions, and that's where the boys tap. Really good match. I thought this was terrific. I was like, this was one of the matches I was most looking forward to, because these are two teams that I really like, and it delivered. It was really good. It was hot. It had some super stuff in it. The crowd was into it. I'd give it the old 3 3/4 stars kind of thing. That's what I do. The old 3 3/4 stars. How about that? Next, we had a best 2 out of 3 falls match, an Australian rules match. Atlantis Jr. and the Sky Team, Mascara Dorada and Neon, because the other Sky Team guy was busy with the Gringo. They defeated Hechicero, Volador Jr. and Zandokan Jr. in a really fun trios match. There's so much cool shit happening in the opening minutes of this match. Like, there's so much, just some great, awesome, cool shit by the Technicos who get the first pin. And of course, there's the rally from the Rudos for the second one. And then the Technicos mount a comeback with a big set of topes, like some really great dives to end it off. And Mascara Dorada gets the win with the shooting star press. You know, Mascara Dorada, I think he's wrestling like, I think he within the last 5 days. I think he's wrestling 6 matches, something to that effect. Like, I'm recording this on Sunday, the 21st, and he's I believe he was in California wrestling 2 shows, and he did AEW yesterday. He did AEW yesterday. He did Arena Mexico obviously on Friday, so that's 4 matches. I think he did another thing Thursday, and then he did and then he did AEW on Wednesday. So, you know, we want to talk about MJF's schedule, which is intense, don't get me wrong. But Dorada, holy mackerel. I mean, he's taking the bookings when he gets them, and he's go. And I think it's starting to pay off for him. Like I said, you know, when I did the Dynamite review, you should check it out when you have a minute, unless you've already listened to it on the podcast. If you're listening to the podcast right now, like I said on the on that bit, Dorada is I think his match at All Out was a breakout performance for him when it comes, well, in regards to AEW fans. I think it was a complete breakout performance for him. So good for him. Something was a little off with Zandakan Jr. He's usually a little more involved. I don't know. There was, maybe he's nursing a little injury and he wanted to work the big show. I don't know. I don't know. Templario and Titan defeat the Galeon Fantasma duo of Barboza and Defunto, Zandakan Jr.'s 2 other dudes, right? In the final of the Copa Independencia. I was really looking forward to this match, and I gotta say it underperformed regarding my expectations. I'm a big Titan fan. I'm a big Defunto fan, and I love Templario on top of that. I don't know. It was good. It was solid, you know, but it didn't click. There was just, I don't know. As much as MJF and Mystico had that chemistry, I don't know. It wasn't there. Felt like everyone was having an off night. I feel like Defunto is better than this. Titan is definitely better than this. Templario is better than this. You know, Barboza's fine. Like, Barboza's all right. You know, he's the third guy. He's the third guy. It's fine. You know, it's like, what were they called? Gallus, right? You had Mark Coffey, you had Wolfgang, and then you had the other dude, Coffey's brother, Brian, Surge. We call him Surge Coffey. Sounds like a pretty good brand, actually. I don't know. Hey, and listen, don't write in the comments, okay? Actually, Warren is named, because I don't give a shit. I don't care. I really don't, because if I cared, I'd pull up Cage Match and check right here, right now. But I don't care enough to do it for the third guy in Gallus. What the fuck are we talking about? So Barboza is Surge Coffee in that regard. 3.25 star. I don't know. Good enough. Like I said, solid, and I enjoyed it, but this is definitely one that went below my expectations. Felino versus Ray Bucanero, which was a hair versus hair match, ended in a double disqualification, and this was something. Let me tell you. So, from what I understand, Ray Bucanero and Felino, they're generational rivals. Apparently, they were on years ago when they were still, young and fresh, at least as young and fresh as possible at that time. They were on a reality show, and they were playing off each other, and there was a rivalry between them on the reality show. So that bled into CMLL, where they had like a cage match where they already had a hair match. I can't remember who won, but not that I watched it. I'm just coming off of notes and research that, stuff that I was reading about, particularly thanks, of course, to Cubs fan over at Lucha Blog. And that was kind of like the impetus of them always like being at odds with each other. And they've been in multiple cage matches with against each other, whether it's just like the one-on-one situation or in multi-man matches within a cage, and they're getting up there in age. These are not not necessarily young spring chickens. It's always hard to get the ages sometimes of luchadors, but Rey Bucanero, he's been doing this for 33 years. Felino, as for him, 43 years. Like, he started wrestling in 1982. These are not young men. And all of us kind of watching, like, this was the first match announced for the anniversary show. And correct me if I'm wrong, it was like announced back in early July or late June, something like that. We're like, oh, we're already making matches for the anniversary show, and we're doing a hair versus hair with Felino and Rey Bucanero. It's kind of weird. Like, everyone's kind of like, that's odd, because it's kind of like it's not it's an interesting feud because it has history. But if you're just jumping in and you don't know what's going on, you're seeing two old dudes wrestling, going for each other's hair. And we're talking, look, this is not like two old dudes, like, these are not like Blue Panthers wrestling. No, these are guys that are, they're showing their age a little bit, right? A lot. So, it's a good B-tier feud, essentially. And somehow it's finding a big spot on the biggest show of the year as a hair versus hair match. And it led to all sorts of speculation, people thinking, oh, well, it might actually just turn out to be a retirement match, and so on and so forth. And it was like, all right, look, we get to the match, right? And you're like, you can see in the way they move and, how they're applying holds and whatnot. You're like, okay, this is not smooth. It's a little rugged. It's a little rugged, okay? And they're doing pretty good. It's like I said, it's a couple of old dudes wrestling. It's fine. Don't get me wrong. It's fine. But it's also not great. It has that combination. But I'll tell you one thing, and here's where I'm having a real struggle trying to make my mind up in regards to this match, because I'm seeing the limitations, and I'm seeing Felino, who is doing bare minimum work, while Rey Bucanero, he's just like, he's jumping off of shit. He's doing splashes from the top rope onto the fucking stage. He's doing cannonball sentons off the apron. He goes to do, at some point he's got Felino on the apron, and he goes to do like a senton off the top rope, and Felino just rolls out of the way, and this guy just lands flat back just flat back on the apron. It's like, holy fuck. And he's bumping so much. Like, he's bumping so freaking hard. And Felino's doing jack shit. Felino's just like, oh, I'm here for the ride. He's taking bumps, obviously. He's got the other guy, flying on top of him and whatnot. But, who's getting the brunt off of a senton off the top rope that lands flat on the apron? Like, who ate the worst of that? It ain't Felino. I'll tell you what. And then Felino does the thing where he's holding on to the ref, and then he does like the inverted kick between the legs to kick him in the no-nos. And so he does that, and he can't seal the deal. He goes to cover Rey Bucanero, and Rey Bucanero kicks out. And it leads to both guys just like straight up kicking each other in the nuts at the same time. So they both collapse, and the referee calls the match, which then leads to a rule in Lucha Libre that I didn't know. Like, if a hair versus hair match ends in a double DQ, both guys lose their hair. So the barber comes out and just snips the hair, and that's it. I struggle with this match because, like, technically it's not great. Okay? Like, it's really not great, but that's also the charm of it. If that makes sense. Like, there's something inherently charming about it because it's so rough and tumble, and the guys are so unpolished, but Bucanero is doing all this crazy, like not outrageously crazy, like, you know, doing a moonsault with a fucking ladder, but, you know, crazy enough to, you know, take bumps off the, you know, flying off the top rope on the apron, where you're like, you don't need to be doing this, dude. Like, so you know, like, so I'm really struggling to sort of put my thoughts together and say, did I hate this? Did I like this? And I think I as I'm talking, I think I liked it, but you know, not like too hard. It's so, like, I don't know how, because it's not a great match. Like, it falls into it's not a great match. And if anyone were to tell me, Warren, you're completely out of your gourd, this was a bad match, I'm like, sure, I understand. Yes. But I think that's also the charm of it. Again, like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I recommend you watch this. I don't think it's recommendable. I really don't. I think most of you are going to watch it and like, yeah, this, you know, Warren, take your pills, go to bed kind of thing. Old man Hayes. But I'm still thinking about the match. Like, that was the thing that when I was putting my notes together to do this, that was the thing I was struggling the most with. It's like, what am I going to say? What's the angle? What's the tangent that I'm going to take here? And look, I think that's the best way to express it. Like, I'm going to give it the gentleman's 3, but like, it's like a 3.5 in my heart and a 2.5 in my brain kind of thing. Maybe 2.25. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and give it the old 3, and because I enjoyed it? Question mark. Say, let's. Why don't we move on? Because the next match was Místico MJF. We already covered that. That leads us to the Eliminatorio de Parejas Increíbles. The three-way tag team match in which friend and foe are paired, and the object of it is that you want to win this match so that you can face your tag team partner immediately after in a singles one-on-one match, which will either be hair versus hair or mask versus mask, depending on the team that wins. So as far as the tag team aspect of this match goes, I thought this was fine. I thought the highlight was, I really felt like the highlight was Barbaro. I didn't even tell you who was in this. You had Dragon Rojo Jr. and Barbaro Cavernario, Averno and Ultimo Guerrero, and Esfinge and Valiente. So those were your 3 teams. And Barbaro Cavernario, I thought, like, he was kicking things off, and he had grit, he had energy, he had just like backbone to everything he was doing. And I was like, oh fuck, I hope he stays. I hope he stays for as long as possible, because I had predicted that Esfinge and Valiente, excuse me, it's Esfinge, Warren. Esfinge and Valiente were going to be the 2 who were going to make it to the singles match. Unfortunately, that was the case. Well, unfortunately, not unfortunately. What I mean is, like, Cavernario didn't make it, but he was in the first team that was eliminated, and that kind of pissed me off. I was like, okay, this guy is, he's injecting so much life into this, and these are the dudes that are following up Místico and MJF, okay? So Jesus fucking Christ, let's have some guys in here who can light this place up, because it's going to be a challenge, and it really was a challenge. But Rojo and Cavernario got eliminated. Cavernario got covered, got pinned, so he lost it for his team, and Dragon Rojo Jr. didn't care much for that. He was hot, and they brawled to the back. Averno and Ultimo Guerrero seemed to be on the same wavelength. They were doing hand signs and, you know, high fives and all sorts of stuff, but not enough for them to get the best out of Esfinge and Valiente. That which led us to the Apuesta match, which was a mask versus mask one. Which again, like and Valiente ended up losing his mask in a match that was good. A solid, if not very average type of match that really wasn't helped by going after MJF Mystico, which is absolutely bonkers that these guys had to follow it. There's no way they were living up to that. The crowd was expended. They were spent. They were still into the match, don't get me wrong, especially towards the end of the singles match. But, it was good. It was solid work, but, there was just no life to it. And I'm going to tell you, Esfinge and Valiente, not exactly my two favorite workers in CMLL. Valiente is one of the older guys. He's up there. And Esfinge, younger dude, but I don't know. His work is okay. Like aggressively okay. He doesn't come across as special to me. I don't know. He doesn't do it for me. And the thing is that these two guys, I think this was the third attempt for these two dudes to get into an apuestas match like this. I think this was their third attempt as a team of a team of opponents, of rivals to make it to this point. So it really felt like they were blowing this off. Like from the get-go. It was like, oh well, okay. It'll probably be Esfinge and Valiente then that are going to make it to the end. And they did. And like it wasn't bad. It was pretty good. It was solid. It was good stuff. Like overall, I'd give all of this a 3.5 star effort. But are you looking for a 3.5 star main event to your anniversary show, which is technically speaking your biggest show of the year? Probably not. But I mean, and I understand why they finished with the mask match, because the apuestas match, because that's tradition. That's usually it. Like, you have all these titles and whatnot, but there's nothing more significant in Lucha Libre than someone losing a mask. So it should end the show. It's a big deal. And I get it. And I'm into it. They really should have ended with Mystico and MJF. Because I often hear when it comes to Arena Mexico, obviously I've never been there, but I often hear that there's a substantial, let me rephrase that. There's a portion of the audience that will leave once Mystico's match is done. They come to see Mystico, they leave. So I don't know if that impacted, I don't know how many people left. I don't know if anyone really left in droves. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. It's probably a couple of people who left, to beat the traffic or whatever the fuck. You need to grab the bus. I don't know. But I do know that happens too. So maybe that would have been the best idea. Maybe this match wouldn't have felt as average, as okay, like a good match. Don't get me wrong, but nothing that should, chime in the end of a big Lucha Libre event, and especially when it was with two guys that just don't main event stuff. Esfinge never main events. Valiente, if he has, it's been years. So, it's like, it's a weird decision overall. It's a weird, like your real deal main eventer was second from the top. I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining and say, well, they should do this way. It just came across as weird. There's some traditional reasons as to why they decided to do that too. So yeah, like I get it. I understand it all. I'm not stupid, contrary to popular belief. And here's the other thing I think that didn't really help this match either, is that in the singles portion, is that Esfinge ate shit the entire match. And I mean ate shit. Like he barely got any offense in, couldn't muster up any proper comeback spots. Like The deal was Valiente is going to beat him down for the majority of the match so that Esfinge can have one big rally and get the win. And that's exactly what happened. And you could see that coming at some point. Like at some point, like you're 10, 12 minutes into the match and Esfinge can't string anything together. Valiente is just demolishing the guy, covering him and doing, what do I have to, giving you the reactions of what do I have to do to beat this guy kind of thing. And it's not compelling. Then it stops being compelling. Then you're like, oh, well, I see where this is going now. It loses its luster. It's not, and you're like, well, okay. The finish was way too telegraphed, essentially is what I'm trying to say. It really, really was too telegraphed, and the structure didn't help. So Valiente gets unmasked, and as they usually do, I love this bit where the announcer then goes to him and he's got his little notepad and his Bic pen, and he's like, "Okay, you got to tell me your name," And then I like to think, or maybe this is the thing, because I like to think that the commentators, they don't know any of the real names of these dudes. Under the mask, they don't know who they are, right? And maybe that is the case. Maybe they do keep them in the dark. I don't think so. But yeah, it's still my favorite part. So he comes up and he, what's your name? He writes down the name. Where are you from? And then what's your age? And he puts it all down. So Valiente turns out to be Fernando Vega from Guadalajara. He didn't give his age, but he did say he was 26 years a pro. Big moment, of course, hands his mask off, gets a couple of licks in after on this Esfinge because he's a little pissed off, but Esfinge will be fine because his girlfriend came to visit her. She was drunk in the audience, the old Tessa Blanchard. So we don't have to worry about that. Because we saw her. Why do I know? Because we saw her. What a jump scare. I'll tell you what. So that's the event. That's the anniversary show. Like I said, like a good show overall. It takes you through the gamut of emotions. And look, if you want recommendations, okay, here we go. Mystico versus MJF. That's the one you have to watch. Can I recommend anything else? I mean, the trios match was good. The Sky Team Atlantis Jr. versus Aniversario Volador Jr. and Zandakan Jr. Plus, there's names in there, faces in there that American fans might know. If you watch AEW, if you're plugged into Ring of Honor, you've seen a lot of these faces as well. Of course, Hechicero, Mascara Dorada recently. Atlantis Jr. has been there. Volador Jr. has been a couple of times on AEW's Ring of Honor programming. I don't know if Neon has. I can't remember. Pretty sure Zandakan Jr. hasn't. CMLL, I think they don't want to start shopping that guy around because, oh boy, let me tell you. So it's not a great match, but it's fun. And I guess the CMLL World Title match, which is on the same level, not a great match, but fun. And if you want to sit down and watch it from top to bottom, including like the interludes and the protocol and the music spots, the dancing, it's about what 3 hours 45 minutes. I mean, it's really not that bad. So if you have a little evening in front of you and you don't know what else, you can just plop that in and skip the stuff you don't want to see. Like you don't even have to start with the women's tag match. It's not good, so you can already skip that. And if you want to skip Felino versus Rey Bucanero, you can as well, or you can watch it and come back and tell me, Warren, you're completely insane, or no, I'm with you, brother. Whichever way. So that's the anniversary show. It will be memorable. This is a show that will be remembered for one match, and sometimes that's all you need, especially when the match is the match we got. It is absolutely phenomenal. I can't put it over enough. One of the best matches I've ever seen. Hopefully one of the best matches you will ever see as well.